Hey, how's it going, everyone? Well, this is just going to be a quick video because I wanted to give you an update and a little bit of a preview of some of the things that I'm currently working on for this channel, some future videos that you can expect to see. And I'm also going to take this opportunity to do a little bit of Q&A. So one of the things that I'm currently producing is a 3-part video about shooting video using the Canon M50. Now, I know what some of you may be thinking, didn't this camera come out 2.5 years ago? I mean, why is this camera even worth talking about anymore? And how is this camera even relevant for that matter? Especially considering that Canon is now introducing the full frame mirrorless cameras, the Canon R5 and R6, two cameras that it seems like the whole world is talking about, including me. I made a video about them last week. Well, I think the Canon M50 is still worth talking about because interest in the camera has anything but gone away. And I know that because if you take a look at Google, there are still plenty of people searching for the Canon M50, possibly even more people searching today than at any time before. And when I look at the analytics for my own YouTube channel, my two most popular videos are videos for EFM lenses. And the reason I think that is because Canon got a lot of things right when they made the Canon M50. I mean, this tiny little crop sensor camera has a fully articulating touchscreen here on the back, has a microphone jack up here at the top. It even has features like focus peaking when doing manual focusing, a feature that's not even available in other Canon cameras. Dual pixel autofocus, which is one of the most sophisticated, even today, 2.5 years later, still one of the most sophisticated autofocus systems out there. And there's the price. I mean, at the time of this video, you can pick up a Canon M50 plus a kit lens for only $600, which is, by the way, over $2,000 less than the new Canon R6 and over $3,000 less than the new Canon R5. Also of interest is the recent rumor that Canon is now preparing a Mark II version of the M50 to be released sometime later this year or perhaps early next year in 2021. And besides, I mean, unless you have a need for a higher end video camera, the Canon M50, quite honestly, may be all you need. So all that said, I'm going to produce a 3-part video sharing with you everything that I've learned about shooting video with the M50 and give you some tips for how to get the best possible video quality out of the camera. In part 1, I am going to unbox a brand new M50. This is not the box for this camera. I actually picked up another one because I have some plans and some ideas for how I'm going to use both of these cameras. And then in part 2 and part 3, I'm going to go into more advanced topics. So if that is something of interest to you, please remember to subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so already. Okay, so a couple of quick things before I move on and do some Q&A. You may recall, this is an update to an earlier video that I made a few weeks ago about RGBW lights, where I talked about two models in particular, one made by Aperture and one made by Cine. When I put that video out, I had a company reach out to me called Pilotfly, and they said, hey, loved your video. Would you be interested in trying out one of our RGBW lights? And I have to say that at first I was like, probably not, mainly because, I already made a video about RGBW lights. Well, I was rather surprised because they sent it to me anyway, and I am so glad that they did. This light is called the Pilotfly AtomCUBE R1. This light is crazy bright. I mean, this light is so much brighter than the Aperture MC. It has full RGB mode, built like a tank. It's incredibly solid. And what's also really interesting is that you can pick up a couple of additional accessories for it, including a diffuser similar to the Aperture MC, so you can diffuse some of that light. It also comes, or rather you can purchase an extra honeycomb case for the outside, which is kind of similar to like the key light that I'm using right now, where it helps direct and focus some of that light. Okay, so another thing that I'm currently testing out is this aluminum tripod back here from K&F. This is one of those tripods that has a center column that, obviously you can pull straight up and use it like a regular tripod, but it can also lay down like this horizontally at a 90-degree angle so that then you can position your camera focused, position it so that it is looking straight down, which is helpful for doing things like, product photography, macro photography, or any kind of flat lay photography as well. Okay, let's do a little Q&A. So I've had a number of people leaving comments on my videos. People have been sending me emails. Some people have been messaging me on social media as well. The first question I think is, I don't know. I find it a rather funny question, but it's entertaining at least. Are you aware of the fact that you resemble a particular Kingsman? Well, of course they're talking about Kingsman the movie and Colin Firth. Yes, I have heard that before. People have pointed that out. I don't know. I mean, it's definitely not my accent nor my acting ability, because I have neither one of those things. So maybe it's the fact that I'm a middle-aged guy with, glasses or something. I don't know. I guess I see some resemblance there. I used to be compared to Tim Robbins a lot when I was younger, but not so much anymore because, well, I don't know where Tim Robbins is, these days. Back when Shawshank was more popular, but don't get that anymore. I now get Colin Firth. So, I mean, there are worse people, I guess, right? Okay, second question. Do I need an adapter or speed booster to use the Sigma 16mm f1.2 with the Canon M50? The answer is no. And I think what's confusing about this is the fact that the Sigma 16mm is available for 4 different mounts, I think is how many it is now. It is available for EFM, Sony, Micro Four Thirds, and I think they just announced one for Leica as well. But the answer is no. I mean, I'll just go ahead and do it for you right now. I mean, you don't need any kind of adapter at all. The thing you need to pay attention to, though, is that if you are considering buying one of these lenses, which is an excellent lens, by the way, and if you haven't seen my review, I'll link to it up here. You need to check the specifications and make sure that you're buying the EFM version of it. Don't buy Sony, don't buy Micro Four Thirds, don't buy Leica, buy EFM. And when you get this, you'll be able to attach it directly to the Canon M50, no problem at all. Okay, so next question. When is the best time to apply a preset when processing a raw image in Lightroom? So the answer to that question is you should always apply presets after an image has been color corrected, after you have fixed any color cast in the image. And the reason that is because when a photographer creates a preset for use by other people and distributes them commercially, it is assumed that the colors in the image that the preset is being applied to are starting at a particular value, are starting at a particular place, so that when that preset is applied and it changes hue, it changes saturation, and all kinds of other things in the develop panel, that the endpoint will end up where it's supposed to be. If you apply it to an image that hasn't been color corrected and the white balance is off and all that kind of stuff, then you're going to end up with an image that looks quite different from what the preset author intended. Okay, next question. Why are solid neutral density filters better than variable NDs? This is in response to a video I made where I compared a bunch of different 3-stop ND filters to figure out which ND filter was the best. If you haven't seen that review and you're interested to know what the best filters are, I'll obviously link to that up here. The short answer to the question is the fact that variable NDs are unpredictable. They can be overturned and you can get weird like color casts and maybe even that dreaded blue X in your footage. Someone who did a really good video on this is Jevin Dovey, where he tested out different variables. And I'll link to that video down below if you're interested to learn more about why variables just aren't quite as good as solid NDs. Okay, next question. Well, this is actually a few different questions that I'm bundling all together because they're all related. First of all, what kind of mic do you use? What is your audio setup? How do you process your audio? And also, do you have any professional broadcast experience? Well, with experience, the answer is yes and no, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. First of all, the microphone that I use up here, this is a Sennheiser MKH416. If you know anything about microphones, I mean, this is pretty much like the gold standard when it comes to mics. Honestly, it's more microphone than I need, but I happened to find a really good deal on one used, and I jumped at the chance to own one, so I picked it up, and it's definitely improved my audio quite a lot from what it sounded like when I started. I'll walk you through some ideas for accessories. Some of these are really cheap. And I run the Sennheiser into this Tascam DR60D, I think is what this thing is. And I record all my audio onto there. I don't record directly into the camera. You definitely get cleaner audio by recording your audio separately using one of those and then syncing the audio later in post. As for how I process it, I mean, I do, EQing it. I use multiband compressor, and there's some other things too. That's probably a good topic for a future video where I'll just go into more detail about it then. But if you're interested to see what the hardware side of it is and what I'm currently using, you will find a link to my kit below in the description so you can check out the mic and the Tascam and some of the other gear that I use. And then as for the question of whether I have any professional broadcast experience, thank you. I'll take that as a compliment because the answer is no. I mean, I don't. I didn't go to school to learn any of this. I don't have any kind of professional training. However, there is a little bit of yes in there as well because many years ago, it seems like forever, but when I was in my 20s, I used to produce and host a weekend music variety show called The Kitchen Sink. And it was on every single Sunday night. It was 2 hours long, and it was broadcast on 8 different public radio stations in the state of South Carolina. And you could also pick it up inside of Georgia and North Carolina as well. It was always an interesting mix and variety of things. And I absolutely loved doing that show. It was so much fun to do. I did it for a number of years, and it had a pretty decent size audience as well. And it was just so awesome to make.
And welcome back to the second half of The Kitchen Sink here on the South Carolina Educational Radio Network, broadcasting statewide to Greenville, Spartanburg, East Tennessee, Georgia as well, wherever you are this evening. Thanks for tuning in to this program. My name is Todd Dominey. 2 full hours of great music from all around the world and from a wide variety of genres every Sunday night from 11 until 1. On your local public radio station.
The entire reason why I ended up creating a show and getting on the air in the first place is because I happen to, one, just really love the station. I love the music that they would play, and because it was a mix of everything from like bluegrass to reggae to jazz and everything in between. And I happened to run into the general manager of the station one time, and I knew who she was, and I talked to her, and I shared with her my enthusiasm for it, and I said, oh, by the way, if you could ever use someone to, come in and take out the trash, to like sweep the floor, to organize the library, because I knew they had to have an awesome library. Whatever you need, I'd be happy to help out. I just want to be around it. I just want to be, to borrow a line from Hamilton, to be in the room where it happens, right? I mean, I want to be there. I want to experience it. And much to my surprise, she said, all right. She said, give me a call next week. I used to load up tapes and play pre-recorded shows and run a mixing board and learn how to do all that stuff. And then I ended up getting my own show, and it was awesome. If you've ever been to Charleston, South Carolina, because that's where I lived and that's where I produced the show at the time, you will know that out there in the harbor, there is a giant aircraft carrier called the USS Yorktown. And it's now a tourist attraction. You can go and tour it. But I mean, back in the day, it was a real carrier. It was used during World War II, during the Korean War, during the Vietnam War. Well, the reason I bring this up is because when the public radio station was formed in Charleston, South Carolina, they decided to put it inside the aircraft carrier. And the place where we would broadcast from with the mixing board in front of you and the microphone and the turntables over here and CD players over here. And the telephone was over here with a big light that would come on and let you know, it would blink when you're on air to let you know that someone was calling. We were all the way up in the Pry-Fly, all the way up at the top of the ship, which is where they would, watch the planes come in and land. And we would sit up there, with this glass all around us, and we'd be overlooking the city of Charleston, across the harbor, and we'd be out there at night, and it would just be, it'd be so beautiful out there, playing music, taking phone calls, and just, it was, I get kind of emotional thinking about it because it was such an important time of my life and such an inspirational time. It was magical is the only way I can put it. And I just adored being up there, and I loved playing music and producing a show and being in that world and being in that smelly, disgusting old aircraft carrier that honestly still smells like BO and oil and gas after all these years. And it was just so awesome. I just feel so fortunate to have had that experience in my life. And I guess in some ways that radio experience is now bleeding into the work I'm doing now, and in front of a microphone again, which I haven't done in a long time. But there you go. That's the answer. All right, everyone, thanks for hanging out with me today. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to give it a thumbs up and also subscribe if you would like to keep in touch in the future. See you next time.